Hello and welcome to the GX video series and the GX podcast. We are here at the World Government Summit 2023 interviewing leaders, critical thinkers, change makers, everybody who has anything to do with government services and can influence the future. In this episode, I have a great friend of mine, Dr. Jonathan Reichental here. Jonathan, welcome to the show.
Great to be with you, Ian.
It's a pleasure, and we've done this many times, but every time we connect, something new has happened, and you have interesting updates to share. So Jonathan, you have been CIO of a big major city in the United States, Palo Alto. You're also an author of Smart Cities for Dummies, and you have a new book, Data Governance for Dummies, and you're doing other incredible work in academia, in government services, and other areas. Maybe I want to ask you about data governance and government services, right? We're here at WGS, thousands of government leaders. Do you think they are all talking about data governance, or should they talk about data governance?
Well, we're not talking about it enough. I spent about a year researching and writing this new book, which is doing quite well. And what I discovered was, I had thought this, but now I have the evidence. Data is the most important asset inside every organization today, and that includes government organizations too. Good data management, having data that's accurate, that's current, with the right access rights, data that you know where it is and how to get a hold of it and how you can share it. Organizations that do those things well are much more effective organizations. They run much better. So you asked the question about government. Well, we need all the advantages we can get, right? Cities and governments in general are under tremendous pressure to perform better. A lot of diverse needs, of course, in our communities. And with the right type of data management, which is what governance is all about, it's about managing data well, that can make a massive difference. And unfortunately, the answer right now, as we sit here in 2023, is there's a lot more to be done. The private sector is doing okay with data. They've really embraced it. They understand how it can drive business growth and how you can target your customers and make better decisions. Governments are beginning to understand that well. Many are way ahead, of course, but the vast majority have a lot of work to do. And if they do it, if they embrace data governance, it could be a real game changer in government.
Yeah. So governments, just for our viewers and listeners to understand, governments, cities, municipalities, countries can generate an enormous amount of data, right?
They do.
Right from how many trees are planted on the roads to, I don't know, how much electricity is generated, to how many people live there, right? It can be data about everything. In recent years, we've seen some kind of a trend where cities have now come up with open data sets.
Yes.
They're creating open data sets and telling researchers out there, hey, use this data to create solutions, do whatever you need.
That's right.
Does that form part of data governance that that governments should handle, manage, pay more attention to?
Yeah.
Where's that going right now?
Where is that going? Well, I was lucky enough to move into government about the same time as open data was becoming a real thing. Effectively, as you described it, taking data sets and making them available to any stakeholders who want them so that they can solve problems, they can build solutions, so they can be part of decision making. And the open data movement really grew rapidly in the 2010s through 2015 and beyond. The full potential of this phenomenon, and it is one, and it can make a difference, has not been realized yet. Let's be clear. Unfortunately, as I observed, having this great, unique position to visit and work with governments all over the world, is many did it because it was a checkbox. The city manager said, let's get that open data portal up and running. Well, they didn't follow through. The cities did it for a while, and then they didn't keep the data sets current. And once the data is old or not accurate, it quickly has less and less value over time. There are many examples around the world of communities still doing great work with open data and having great partnerships. The broader question of using the abundance of data that most public, government agencies have in the world, that continues, and in fact, that's expanding. So I would concur with you that open data is a part of the data management ecosystem for government. It has to be, and it has to be done well, has to be maintained. You need people with skills. You need focus on it, right? You need to invest in it. It's not sort of one and done. It's, becomes part of your operating model for government. So that's not the only thing, of course. I mean, you can do that. It's actually quite, the entry barriers for having an open data portal are very low. Any community can do it, and lots have done it. But stepping back and saying, wait a minute, we are going to make the conscious decision as a government agency to recognize and use data as the most important asset we have. We're going to have a strategy around that. We're going to have investment. We're going to hire, or we're going to reskill existing staff. We're going to make it a real focus of our operations. That's the bigger thing I think that has to happen. Open data is a part of it, to your point. But the bigger picture is good data governance and good data management.
So two things are coming to me from what you just mentioned. Number one is there is an ever-growing need for people with skills that can work with data, right? And this is where jobs are being created through technology, right? I find a lot of people sometimes complaining about how technology is taking away jobs. On the other hand, it's creating more jobs, but except they're more specialized. So the more specialized you get, the more upskilling you do of your career, of your work. I think that is the best thing to do and to become future ready, your organization and yourself. So that's one thing I can think of. Another thing I can think of is, and perhaps this organization exists somewhere, but there needs to be a world council of the standardization of government open data. Like an organization that kind of just does this, brings people together, and there's a focus. And there are stakeholders who are brought in and who commit to working with open data, work with data governance, and maintain standards that globally will become global standards for data governance.
That's very hard. We don't do a lot of stuff globally together. But I will say there is a good news story a little bit about this. There is the Open Government Partnership, the OGP, which has been well embraced by the major economies of the world to really focus on sharing best practices, developing innovation together. But open data is a part of that, and there's some good guidance in there. But what I discovered, not only working as a leader of a city, but also being able to work with so many amazing leaders around the world in government, is that what is it? I lost my train of thought, to be honest with you.
That's okay.
We were talking about the open data. Oh yes, I'll tell you what I was going to say, which is they want to do these collaboration activities. Absolutely, they want to do these collaboration activities, and they are sometimes successful at it. But they also have to focus on their own work. I hope I'm sort of being clear about that. At the end of the day, a city leader, a government agency leader, has an agenda which is to focus on some core priorities. And as a result, sometimes that kind of cross-border, that global collaboration doesn't get the priority it needs. There is a tension there, of how to spend time, to how to share the time between those broad collaboration efforts and the local things. I mean, if your community says, you spend more time focused on global collaboration and not enough time on things that matter to us, that probably means as an elected official you're going to lose your job. You won't be voted, or as a civilian, in a public servant, you might be your days might be numbered.
So while writing this book, Data Governance for Dummies, really important topic, what were maybe some of the surprising and shocking things that you found? And we'd love to hear some of them.
Well, the first important discovery was that data is the most important asset. I mean, if you're listening to this or watching this, and you're a leader, do you believe that? Are you making data governance and data a priority in your organization? That's number one. The other thing is, 90% of leaders of all types of organizations, not government, but across the board, when asked what kind of organization they want, they say they want a data-driven organization. And they say that, 90%. But far, far less are actually succeeding at that, right?
Yeah.
It's quite remarkable. So that's about 90%. Of the organizations that actually initiate a data governance program, the first time they do it, the vast majority of them fail.
Yep.
The failure rate is extremely high, right? And that's, that was a great motivation for writing the book, is let me help organizations of all types be successful.
Yeah.
So that was a great big finding. The last point I would make to you is, as people are thinking about this and listening to us today, thinking, wait a minute, I never made this a priority. In fact, I could be hearing about this for the first time. One of the things that leaders say is, this is expensive. It's more bureaucratic.
Yeah.
We got other stuff to work on. And what I discovered in my research and looking at all types of organizations is, if you are a very large, let's say a Fortune 100 company in the world, highly regulated, it's going to be expensive, it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of need to do it because, the opposite, if you make mistakes with data, you're getting big fines, and in some cases, in some countries, you can go to prison if you don't manage your data right.
For sure.
But look, the vast majority of organizations are much smaller, and what I found was you can put the core pieces together, identify the right resources, and make progress at very little cost and with very little bureaucracy.
Yeah.
So I want to be very clear in communicating that to audiences of all types. Data governance needs to be a sort of top 3 priority, for all leaders, and it doesn't have to be a massive undertaking. You can do it gradually, starting small, and with little cost, and you can be successful. You will have better data. You will grow. If you're a private organization, you can grow markets. You will make better decisions as a government.
Yep.
I mean, that's at the core of this, right? And we find overall, with data governance, you become a more successful organization.
Right. No, absolutely. I think it's an area to be definitely worked upon by every government, every country in the world. Let's turn gears as we head towards almost the end of our session today.
Sure.
You're also the author of an upcoming book on cryptocurrencies, and there's a big movement of central bank-based digital currencies, CBDCs, that maybe in the future will happen or not. We can't predict what will happen, but they could have an impact on governments, how governments work, how now they are. Will there be an impact on the future of data management based on, hey, now there's a new area of financial system that's digital? Will that interfere with what governments should start thinking now, say 10 years from now?
Well, yes, and not 10 years, but right now, if you're running a public agency, you ought to be knowledgeable on this topic and understand what the impacts might look like and what they are going to be sooner than later.
Yep.
The question of crypto, let's just take crypto as a separate area, highly uncertain at this point. I don't, in writing this book, I don't evangelize. I'm not championing it or anything. I'm an educator.
Sure. Yep.
I'm teaching you what it is, what's the genesis of it, what is it, where might it be going. But along the journey, I've discovered, as I think many have, we're early. There's tremendous uncertainty. It's very unpredictable.
Yep.
So I'm not going to say right now, sitting with you here at World Government Summit 2023, that the future belongs to Bitcoin or some other altcoin.
Yeah.
It's too big to ignore.
Yeah.
I mean, 425 million people in the world, 5% of the planet has crypto.
Right.
So it's no longer some sort of sideshow.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So governments need to understand what role it has in society, how it impacts economics. I think the biggest way that governments are going to see their role here is in regulation that's coming.
Yep.
No question.
Yep.
And it has been the Wild West, as you know well. You've made a few documentaries on this and written about it a lot. We've allowed it to innovate organically, and I think that has advantages. But that's created enormous risk, and it's not going to succeed if there isn't the right kind of regulation. And look, that's what governments are saying all over the world. The idea of the central bank digital currency, though, right, separate from crypto, right, just digitizing our fiat currency, that's coming.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. I mean, the only observation I have is how come it didn't happen sooner, right? You know, most of the money today, I mean, your bank account, the money doesn't exist.
Right.
It's just digital. It's just numbers on a screen, right?
Exactly.
So we got to go all the way and create our economies around not only sort of declining uses of the physical currency, but go all in on digital currency.
Yeah.
Which is good. It's not risky. So the listener shouldn't think that's the same as crypto. These are very different beasts. They are digital money, of course, and that's what makes them similar. If you are the leader of a local government, you need to understand this, and you need to understand the role of both, what it means, what it might mean in terms of your responsibilities in your organization.
Of course. And you are an educator for many different topics, including quantum computing, cryptocurrencies, data governance, smart cities. So you see things in a very different way, and you can help connect the dots. And I think your insights were really important from the crypto and the data governance perspective. Tell our viewers and listeners where they can find you, learn more about your work, and where you are.
Sure. Well, a good note is be careful when you do these interviews when you get a lot of jet lag, because you'll lose your train of thought maybe. But beyond that, I'm very easy to find, as folks know. Very active on LinkedIn, Twitter. Those are my two big areas. I have my own website, reichental.com. Can't get any easier than that. So just go to my main site, reichental.com. Gets you the links to everything. Tons of free videos, tons of free content, all the places I'm speaking, all the things I'm teaching.
Excellent.
So it's a great way to learn about what I'm up to, and it's a fantastic way for me to learn about you and what your interests are, and having and sort of inspire some great conversations about creating a more positive future.
Amazing. Dr. Jonathan Reichental here with us at the World Government Summit. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thanks, Ian. Always a pleasure.
All right. Everybody, please subscribe to this channel. Share it with your peers, friends, neighbors, and family members. Take care, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Before you move, could you make